You've seen gardens, but have you ever seen one built from trash? Welcome to Verdant Dreams, a channel where waste turns into wonder, and every broken object finds new life among flowers. In today's video, we'll explore stunning DIY garden ideas made from everyday junk, plastic bottles, cans, pipes, and more, reimagined into colorful borders, vibrant fences, and beautiful backyard pieces. Chapters are marked with timestamps, so skip to what inspires you most. And if something sparks a question, feel free to drop it in the comments. Don't just watch, build your dream with what you already have. Start small. Start now. And if this speaks to you, maybe I'm just a face on a screen, but behind every frame is a real life, a real family, and a dream. Every like, every comment, every subscribe keeps this journey alive. You're not just watching, you're helping something grow. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. Sometimes, the smallest pieces bring the greatest joy. With a splash of paint and a little imagination, discarded bottle caps are reborn, not as waste, but as a charming ribbon of color framing the blooms we treasure. In quaint English-style gardens and tiny urban patios alike, these vibrant caps create playful scallops along gravel paths and flower beds, catching the light like mosaic tiles under the sun. They whisper of creativity, thriftiness, and a deep love for the earth. Arranged in rainbows or soft cottage pastels, each bottle cap becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your garden. Surrounding your chrysanthemums, asters, or marigolds, they lend cheerful contrast, reminding visitors that beauty can spring from the most unexpected places. These tiny loops of color are ideal for tiny yards and narrow patios, where space is limited but creativity is boundless. They hold their place quietly but proudly, keeping soil tidy, adding rhythm to the garden, and inviting butterflies and bees with their flower companions. Whether you're sipping tea under a pergola or tending your mums before dusk, this humble border turns your backyard into a wonderland of texture and color. It's not just DIY, it's a visual poem in recycled form. And it begins with a cap. What once stirred sugary drinks can now stir imaginations. In a world of excess, even humble plastic straws, so often tossed without thought, can become symbols of craft and color. Trimmed, arranged, and painted with care, they form intricate mosaic borders, wrapping patios and flower beds like delicate threads of modern folk art. These straw mosaics speak to those who see not waste, but possibility. Each segment tells a story of hands that salvaged, minds that imagined, and hearts that long to create beauty from the ordinary. Styled in earthy bamboo tones or coastal blues, the effect is both grounding and joyful. Ideal for small garden spaces and narrow patios, the straw edges add a handcrafted rhythm that plays beneath the bloom of chrysanthemums or the sway of lavender. They're light, versatile, and weather protected with clear sealant, suitable for lining pathways, decorating the base of fences, or wrapping around corner herb beds where bees hum contentedly. Whether set against a pergola dripping with vines or a modest front fence, these upcycled mosaics catch the sun, scatter light, and remind us that garden borders can be more than boundaries, they can be art. They invite us to notice details, to celebrate reuse, and to turn even the tiniest garden space into a gallery of green. There's something magical about totems, vertical stories whispered in layers, each piece adding a verse. In the world of garden crafting, upcycled tin cans become the storytellers. No longer forgotten, rust-covered relics, these cans are sanded, painted, and transformed into vibrant pillars of bloom and charm. Stacked with care and color, each totem anchors a quiet garden corner, drawing the eye and delighting the spirit. One might lean slightly, another reaches high like a cheerful exclamation mark. They speak not of perfection, but personality, each one unique, each one humming with handmade love. Filled with fall perennials like sedum autumn joy, chrysanthemums, and trailing ivy, these towers bring vertical rhythm to otherwise flat garden beds. They're especially striking in tight spaces, a patio nook, a pergola post, a tiny yard's back wall, where horizontal space is scarce but creativity is free to soar. You can see them from across the garden, soft tones for a cottage vibe, bold brights for a splash of play. They pair beautifully with rustic benches, gravel paths, or against bamboo fences. When sunlight filters through the foliage above and lands on the glossy painted cans, the entire tower seems to glow. These are more than garden accents. They are acts of revival, where trash finds purpose and color finds a home. A totem of transformation, whispering joy into your garden. Sunlight is an artist, and when given the right palette, it paints the garden with magic. Imagine a row of everyday plastic bottles, rescued from the trash, cleaned and painted in translucent jewel tones. Now imagine those bottles mounted on your garden fence, standing like miniature stained glass windows, turning morning rays into dancing colors. This is the art of bottle prism fence decor. Simple materials, stunning results. When placed behind beds of marigolds or asters, these glowing panels act as living backdrops, breathing color and light into your space without overwhelming it. They're especially beautiful in small gardens where vertical charm matters more than space. Unlike traditional fencing, these bottle prisms don't block the view, they amplify it. The garden becomes dynamic, shifting with the sun. Your chrysanthemums seem to shine brighter, your gravel paths more radiant. Guests pause, eyes widening with delight, wondering how something so enchanting came from something so disposable. Whether you paint in a single color palette, cool blues for a calm vibe, or go full rainbow for joyful energy, the effect remains irresistible. And the best part? This project is accessible, low cost, and sustainable. From patio corners to backyard fences, the prism bottle fence doesn't just decorate, it transforms. It turns trash into treasure, sunlight into spectacle, a plain fence into poetry. needs rhythm, something that draws the eye and breaks the flatness of ground-level blooms. Enter mini pipe bloom stands. Born from leftover pieces of PVC plumbing pipe, these chunky vertical accents bring dimension, charm, and unexpected elegance to even the tiniest outdoor spaces. Painted in colors that reflect your garden's personality, perhaps soft pastels for a gentle cottage vibe, or bold brights for a modern artistic touch, these pipe pedestals lift your favorite potted blooms into the spotlight. Sedum autumn joy, Japanese anemone, and cheerful marigolds now stand tall, catching both sunlight and admiration. These stands are especially powerful in narrow gardens and patios where space is limited, but vertical beauty can shine. A group of varying heights can be tucked into a corner, lined up like a border, or clustered near a fence to form a blooming sculpture garden. They're more than stands, they're symbols of transformation. Pipes, once hidden underground, now rise proudly in plain sight. Their smooth curves and clean paint catch the light, while their sturdy form gives structure to the playful energy of flowers. In a world where trash is too often forgotten, these pipe bloom stands remind us, with a little love and color, anything can bloom again. As twilight settles over the garden, there's a gentle flicker beneath your feet, tiny halos of warm light blooming from what once was waste. Bottle caps, painted with care and filled with soft solar glows, have become the guiding stars of your garden path. This is the quiet magic of cottage cap pathway lights. So simple. So enchanting. What was once discarded becomes delicate and useful again, tracing your walkway with fairy tale charm. The caps, painted in soft pastels or warm rustic tones, nestle into the soil between asters and chrysanthemums, their soft light reflecting off flower petals like dewdrops catching the moon. Ideal for tiny gardens, patios, or narrow paths, these lights require no wiring, no complication, just sunshine by day, and wonder by night. They're especially powerful in small backyards where every detail counts, where intimate moments are made among glowing flowers and fragrant herbs. As guests wander your garden after dusk, each step is lit with quiet poetry. And when you're alone, the flicker of recycled light reminds you, beauty isn't always loud, it's sometimes just a tiny cap, glowing in the dark, reminding us what can shine when given the chance. Here, in the soft hush of night, trash becomes treasure, and your garden becomes a place of light. Sometimes, color isn't just decoration, it's celebration. And in the world of recycled garden art, nothing brings more joy than a well-placed burst of brightness. That's what color wheel clusters are all about. Vibrant arrangements of tin cans, transformed into circular mosaics of bloom and color, dancing around your garden beds like oversized blossoms of paint. Each can, once dull and forgotten, is sanded, coated, and brought to life in brilliant hues. They're arranged not in straight lines, but in playful clusters and spirals, mimicking nature's own floral forms. A pop art sunflower made from cans. A radiating rainbow bloom. A modern twist on the classic cottage border. Perfect for framing chrysanthemums, asters, or sedum, these clusters add structure and charm to both small front gardens and rustic backyard corners. When viewed from above, they resemble petals. From the path, they shine like garden jewels. This isn't just edging. It's sculpture. It's storytelling in color. It invites guests to stop and smile, to admire your creativity, and to imagine what else could bloom from yesterday's trash. In every cluster, there's a secret, the power of transformation. From rust to radiance. From junk to joy. All it takes is a bit of vision, and a lot of color. In the quiet corners of a garden, art can rise from the most unexpected forms. Hollow, cold PVC pipes, once meant to carry water underground, become hanging circles of life, color, and bloom. With a simple cut and a splash of paint, these loops transform into floating cradles for nature's loveliest offerings. Hanging pipe flower loops are more than a garden DIY, they're a statement of grace through simplicity. Suspended from pergolas, fences, or even a blank wall, each circular frame becomes a tiny stage. Within them, chrysanthemums flourish, sedum spills, and anemones sway, brought closer to the eye and the heart. In small yards or patios where floor space is precious, these loops draw the gaze upward, giving your garden depth and dimension. Painted in gentle cottage tones or playful brights, they add motion and color without clutter. When the wind stirs and the loops move gently, there's music in the moment. A soft clinking, a shifting of shadows, the illusion that the garden itself is breathing. They remind us that life doesn't grow only from the ground. It can float. It can dangle. It can bloom in circles, in balance, in quiet beauty, crafted by your hands, guided by your vision. These loops aren't just planters. They're poetry in motion. Every garden deserves a statement, a moment that says, "Here I am, blooming and alive." And what better way to declare it than with a rainbow bottle wall backsplash? Made from everyday plastic bottles, this artful display turns backdrops into centerpieces, creating a glowing canvas of recycled light and color. Each bottle is cut, painted, and arranged like glass tiles. From radiant rainbows to calming ocean tones, the wall becomes a fluid artwork that reflects the season's mood and your personal taste. Whether placed behind a rustic bench or tucked into a quiet patio corner, the effect is stunning, like a stained glass window for your garden. Sunlight plays through the painted curves, casting colored light onto nearby blooms, chrysanthemums dancing in amber tones, sedum catching a seafoam glow. Vines climb slowly across the structure, weaving life into the frame. It's not just decorative, it's alive with intention. Perfect for tiny gardens or narrow patios that need privacy or personality. This backsplash also functions as a windbreak or conversation starter. It invites visitors to ask, "What's it made of?" And when you answer, "Bottle scraps," the reaction is always the same, wonder. Because what was once waste is now wonder. A wall of discarded plastic becomes a garden's shining soul. has always been nature's gentle artist, brushing through petals, rustling leaves, and now, turning forgotten straws into kinetic joy. Striped straw garden fans are playful, colorful, and completely made from what once would have been trash. Yet here they are, spinning life into every breeze that graces your garden. Layered and shaped into simple fan or pinwheel forms, each piece is painted in vibrant or pastel stripes, echoing rainbows, summer sherbets, or ocean breezes. When mounted on fences, pergolas, or tucked among flower beds, these cheerful accents move with the wind and delight the eye with their rhythmic twirl. Perfect for tiny yards or narrow patios, they add movement and a touch of whimsy without taking up space. You'll find them turning beside marigolds, nodding with sedum autumn joy, and watching over blooming asters as bees hum lazily below. They're especially charming in children's gardens or cottage-style yards, where handmade touches bring soul to the space. And every spin reminds you, this was once waste. A straw. A leftover. Now, it's art in motion. The garden isn't just a place to grow flowers, it's a place to grow wonder. And when your borders spin with recycled color, you know you've planted something truly magical. In gardens, beauty isn't always seen, it's also heard. Soft, accidental music drifts through the air, made not by expensive ornaments, but by humble tin cans given new purpose. Painted, repurposed, and lovingly hung beneath pergolas, porches, and bamboo arches, these vintage tin garden bells bring harmony to your home's greenest spaces. Each can tell a story. Once a container of soup or paint, it is now a soft-voiced chime. Coated in faded creams, rustic greens, and pastel lilacs, they blend beautifully into cottage gardens and vintage-themed patios. Add a few delicate beads or a stamped flower motif, and suddenly, your trash has become a treasure. When the wind stirs, the cans speak. Their soft notes echo through the vines, over the marigolds and chrysanthemums, like whispers of old melodies dancing with sunlight. They soothe the afternoon and welcome the dusk. These bells are not meant to be loud, they're meant to be present. Felt more than heard. Seen more than noticed. And loved for what they are, stories of renewal hanging gently in the breeze. Whether tucked along a garden path or swaying from the rafters of a pergola, they invite you to pause, listen, and remember, even the discarded can sing, if you let them. Sometimes, the wind carries color. Not just through fluttering petals, but through movement we create, twirls, spins, and spirals that catch the eye and charm the spirit. Painted bottle twirlers do just that. Simple plastic bottles, transformed by scissors and paint, become kinetic garden magic. Cut into smooth spirals, each bottle dances when the wind passes, spinning like a garden pinwheel made from nothing but trash and creativity. The colors shine in motion, bright rainbow gradients or soft pastel shades, and the movement draws children to smile and grown-ups to pause. In a tiny garden or backyard, these twirlers become performers. Hung from pergolas, fences, or trees, they swirl among chrysanthemums and anemones, reflecting sunlight in playful loops. No battery. No wires. Just wind and whimsy. Each one feels alive, catching the breeze and echoing the rhythm of nature. They pair beautifully with rustic garden corners, gravel paths, or herb beds where thyme and lavender brush the air below. More than decoration, they're a reminder, motion brings joy, and beauty is often found in what we let go. What was once waste now turns with the wind, and in its turning, tells a story of transformation. These twirlers are your garden's laughter, and every spin is a celebration. In the quiet geometry of gardens, circles feel like home. Complete, soft, welcoming. And when those circles are made from once forgotten tin cans, painted and filled with blooming life, they become charming accents that invite smiles and spark curiosity. Minikin planter rings are tiny wreaths of bloom nestled into your garden edge. Whether surrounding a gravel path, lining a patio, or framing herbs, each ring adds rhythm and purpose to the landscape. The cans, once containers of beans or soup, are sanded and painted in your favorite hues, soft vintage pastels, farmhouse rustics, or bold brights, and placed in neat little loops. Within each, chrysanthemums sway, sedum reaches, and marigolds glow. Herbs, too, flourish in these snug circles, thyme curling over the edges, rosemary standing upright like a proud cottage sentinel. They're especially useful in small spaces, where beds are tight and creativity matters most. A few rings grouped together become an eye-catching feature. Placed evenly, they guide the foot and frame the flower. More than just decoration, they speak to balance, the circle, the cycle, the chance to give something discarded a new, useful life. They ask for no fanfare, only appreciation for what can grow when we look at trash not as the end, but the beginning. Close your eyes and listen. The wind sounds like waves. The rustling leaves mimic the sea's hush. And with just a few painted straws, your garden can begin to breathe like the coast. Seascape straw borders bring the essence of ocean breezes to even the smallest garden space. By cutting, arranging, and painting ordinary plastic straws in sea-inspired tones, turquoise, coral, seafoam, you create borders that shimmer like sunlight on water. Every color tells a story: the calm of deep blue, the energy of foam white, the joy of a coral reef in bloom. These glossy, upright borders blend beautifully with flowering beds of Japanese anemones, marigolds, and ornamental grasses. They're especially charming alongside white fences, gravel paths, or beneath a pergola draped in vines. More than just aesthetic, these borders shift the garden's tone, adding freshness, airiness, and a sense of escape. Guests may feel as though they've wandered into a seaside cottage retreat, even in the heart of a tiny city backyard. Perfect for narrow borders, small patios, or fairy gardens, these straws add structure without bulk. They guide the eye, soften harsh lines, and glow when kissed by the sun. In every painted straw, there's a wave of imagination. In every border, a little whisper of the sea. Every garden dreams of height, of reaching up, of growing wild and free. And with a bit of vision, even discarded PVC pipes can become ladders for that dream. The recycled pipe trellis wall brings vertical elegance to compact spaces. Painted in rustic or pastel tones, these slim, hollow tubes, once part of unseen plumbing, now stand proud as trellises for climbing vines and blooming walls. Whether behind a bench, beside a pergola, or framing a tiny patio, they invite upward movement and visual delight. In a small garden, vertical structure adds dimension without taking space. Vines stretch toward the sky, wrapping through crisscrossed pipes like green poetry. Chrysanthemums peek through gaps, while sedum spills from planters at the base. The trellis becomes not just support, but stage and sculpture, background and centerpiece. Each pipe is painted by hand, weatherproofed, softened in color, yet strong in form. Cream, sage, soft blue, or warm brown, they blend beautifully into cottage garden scenes and farmhouse yards alike. Add a lantern, a few butterflies, or string lights, and it transforms into a living wall of color and calm. In this trellis, There's a message: even what once flowed unseen below ground can rise into the light, support life, and create beauty. It's not just recycled, it's reborn.